What's up everyone, you join me for E30 Diaries Part 2 and we're going to be starting off doing some modifications on the car. I plan to start it fairly simple and it's just a basic controls thing, so we're going to be fitting a new steering wheel which I'll show you in a second. Kind of got a little bit carried away and did something silly this week. This is an M52 B28, so anyone who's not into BMWs, it's a straight 6 2.8 from an E36, which is the newer generation than the E30, and Getrag 5-speed and the manifolds and a few other little bits. It's a different sump to fit on the E30, basically different subframe design, so you need a bit of clearance, as you can see underneath. It was at a price that I couldn't really deny. If you watched the last video, you might have saw that I sort of explained that I was starting off with a slow car and developing the suspension, etc. This came up local and it was in the right place at the right time, and it will more than double the power of the car. However, I'm not going to do it straight away. I am going to stick to my word and get on with the suspension stuff. I've found a solution to, I know I've already mentioned it in the previous video, but the caster problem. There is a solution and it's on the way. Someone I know actually made their own, however this is going to work and you'll understand very soon when the parts arrive. The plans for the engine and box, basically I'm going to clean everything up, get it all nice. The wiring and ECU are there, but you have to do an EWS delete. I'll probably add an M50 manifold and tune it and a few other bits, and it should make around 250, 260 horsepower hopefully. Possibly not with those manifolds, but we'll see. As for the parts that have arrived today, this is a steering wheel Boss Momo and from Driftworks, so thank you the people at Driftworks that sent this, and thanks for the Haribo. And a Momo Mod 07 steering wheel. Basically I like the design of these. I do think the prototypo works well on an old car, however I kind of like suede, and yeah, the prototypo doesn't come in suede. So the wheel itself, it's 350mm, which I think really is the perfect size. Some people go a little bit too small and I think it's a little bit go-kartish. It's a 70mm dish which will move the wheel out a little bit, so I think that should be perfect. So at the minute the wheel is pretty big in the E30, and as I mentioned in a previous video and I've shown you, it sort of catches my legs as I'm steering and it's not very confidence inspiring, so I think this is the reason why I've decided to do this. So as I mentioned, this is a relatively straightforward task. If you haven't done it before, the principles apply to most cars, other than the fact that this doesn't have airbags, so there isn't really the risk of the airbag going off in your face. If you do have airbags, it's recommended you disconnect your battery, but I've done it without before, if I'm honest. First things first, we've got to remove this badge. You do not need to use an impact gun for this, but it's easier and I've got one, so I'm going to. It's 22mm on this car. I'm sure it varies between different vehicles, but here we go. Once you've got this off, what I typically do is thread it back on a couple of threads, because when you pull the steering wheel off, I've seen people break their noses before and it's not really a good look. And then just to remove the steering wheel, you need to click the ignition on. It must be part of the steering wheel lock, and then simple as that. Make sure your wheels are straight first, it makes it a lot easier to line the steering wheel up. If you take a look at your old steering wheel and the Boss, you will see that there's a little tab that cancels the indicators. Just make sure that goes the same way. So this one's going to want to go like this. I've just also just noticed that there is an arrow with top written on, so I didn't really need to do that. The reverse is self-explanatory really. Throw it back on. Obviously you want to make sure these are tight. There is a torque setting and this is it. The horn is supplied with the steering wheel, and obviously both being Momo, it connects together pretty good. You just got an earth wire and then the wire from the car. It's probably best to check the horn at this stage because you don't really want to take it back off afterwards. I'm actually really happy with how that looks. I was kind of worried it might look a little bit out of place with this car sort of being in a cruiser setup at the moment, and it's kind of, I guess, a more sort of track look kind of steering wheel. But these things, you know, as I said, I was doing it for a purpose, so I'm not really about that. I've now got a significant amount of gap between my legs. So, why do I say things like that? I've just done it again, it sounded stupid again, didn't it? So you can kind of see the difference here, you know, new versus old. It's a good couple of inches smaller, that's what she said, and yeah, I'm happy with it. We'll go for a little drive and see if it feels any better. So I don't really have a huge amount of faith in the Nankang ditch finders on the car, and as I mentioned, it's not probably set up as well as it could be geometry wise, so we're not going to go too crazy. But overall I'm happy with the steering wheel, I like it. It's not too thick. Some of these modern wheels are very thick and I think you lose a little bit of feel through them. Personal preference I guess, but I'm happy. I've got a little bit more leg room at the bottom, which feels really good. The other one was like kind of intrusive. And yeah, the car can go quite light over here. Being a light car, it kind of does quite easily, but yeah, I think as a first mod, it was a good one. I'm happy with it, and I'm looking forward to doing the next ones, especially the suspension stuff. Definitely going to go ahead and do the caster correction things very soon, and hopefully the purple tag rack soon as well. The Momo gets a thumbs up. I'm definitely happy with that as a first mod. I understand there's a bit of a placebo effect. You're looking down at a sort of motorsport steering wheel, makes it feel a little bit more, you know, a bit special I guess, but it's more placebo than anything. But as I said, I needed this for a function because the other steering wheel was a little bit big and it was just sort of clumsy and in the way. There is something I forgot to mention in the first video. Unfortunately, on the second day that I had the car, I was driving to Malton because there was a breakfast meet on, which is usually pretty cool. Just do a bit of cruising. You may notice that when I picked up the car, it had 2 fog lights, and it now only has 1. Basically it's prime pheasant season, and I don't know why, but they all have a death wish and they just run out in front of cars. So unfortunately, RIP to the fog light. The pheasant, you know, natural selection, you had what was coming really. No, I'm joking. I did actually feel pretty bad afterwards, but you know, those things, there's nothing you can do about it. There's definitely no room to stop. They just run out in front of cars. Yeah, if you've enjoyed this video, then be sure to, you know, do all the YouTube stuff that everyone says, and I'm hoping to do a lot more with this build and sort of just go through it. The damage I just mentioned could be something we do in a video as well, so yeah, hopefully see you soon. Hi guys, I'm Shmee. Cheers.